We're sisters, best friends, and authors on a mission to help you stoke your creative fire and live the life of your dreams. We believe that purpose fuels passion and that creativity is your secret weapon for mass construction. There's never been a better time to bless the world with your dream realized. You're listening to The Kate and Abbie Show. What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Kate and Abbie Show. This is episode 37, and today we are talking about 7 mistakes beginner writers make. This is, I think, a hot topic because I've seen a lot of people talk about the beginner writer mistakes. But as sisters who are writers who have lived with each other from the beginning, from the messy beginnings, and helped each other on those messy beginnings, I think we can bring a unique perspective to this topic. And we're going to talk about some mistakes that I don't hear a lot of other people talk about, other writers. So let's dive right in. The first mistake that I think I've seen a lot of beginner writers make and a lot of writers make on their first work or their first few works is, and by the way, some of these are published books that I can tell just did not have enough thought and time and effort put into them, is a story that has an aimless or meandering plot. And by that, I mean a plot that is kind of all over the place, because you could tell that the writer did not take the time to use story structure of any type. And they didn't really take the time to think out the plot and think of the outline and the direction that this story is going in. So it kind of just became this meandering, aimless, like the characters are just thrown into this situation and then they kind of have to navigate kind of in this chaotic, reactive manner. They have to navigate all of this stuff happening to them. And this isn't just for like adventure action stories. This can also appear very frequently in contemporaries and romance and things like that. That is just this lack of thought from the beginning. And I think that is why story structure is so helpful to especially beginner writers. So that's why I recommend it to every writer, but especially if you're a beginner and you're like, I don't really know how to craft a good plot. Don't even think about it in terms of like a good plot. I would recommend thinking about it in terms of a well-structured plot, okay? Because when good is so subjective. But if you think of it like this has to have a good structure to it, then almost anything can happen. You can take this in almost any direction, but it has to have that structure or else it will feel aimless and meandering. And that's what I love about the 3-act story structure, and that's why I teach that so much on my channel, is because it's kind of this tried and true template that's almost fill in the blank, but you're obviously bringing your own unique ideas to it. But it is tried and true. And that is so helpful, especially when you're not sure how to create this strong structure and make it feel like it's going somewhere on purpose, not just the characters are reacting to everything that happens. So that is a mark of you're a beginner, you don't know what you're doing when your characters are just like reacting to a bunch of random stuff happening to them and there's no sense of this is going somewhere. So I think that's a big, I put that as number 1 because that's a big one. But there really is no order to this list of mistakes. But that is one that stands out to me the most when I read it. Is like this needed help. Right. This needed revising, rewriting, majorly.
It also makes the characters feel underdeveloped, in my opinion, because it's just relying upon the plot to drive the story forward, and the characters are sort of these punching bags or red shirt guys being thrown around by the fury of the plot.
Right, exactly.
And
that's really what story structure is about, is character development.
Right, the character is what anchors you. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you just are being thrown around.
Exactly, yeah. And that kind of leads into the second big mistake that beginner writers make, which is not editing their own work or not editing it enough. And I think that we can both speak from experience here that it's like you become so much of a better writer by editing your own work over
Absolutely.
and over and over and over again. When it gets tedious and boring and grueling, that is the time when you keep doing it. You don't give up. You have to keep doing it. Keep editing it, keep making it better, because every time you do, you are making it better. You know?
Right. And you're becoming a better writer.
Yeah.
You become so much of a better writer from looking back and seeing what your mistakes were.
Right.
So to not edit your own work is like if you decided you were going to become a baker and have a bakery, but you never tasted any of the things you made.
Exactly.
You just made them. And regardless of whether they sold or not, you just kept making it over and over again.
Yeah. Or you tasted it once and you're like, that wasn't too great. I'll change a few things about it. And then you never tasted it again.
Right. But like yeah.
You have to
exactly.
perfect it
so
as
like,
best you can.
From what I've seen from like films and documentaries about chefs, great chefs are always constantly tasting things and very in tune with what ingredients add what flavors. It's the same with writing. And the tasting is the editing. The tasting is the spending time to go back and read that scene over and over and over again and try to identify, does this make me feel connected to the character or not? If it doesn't, then why? And what can I add there or take away that just hits that spot and makes me feel like, yeah, that's perfect now. And it takes a long time to perfect that. And it's the spending time editing that really helps you hone your craft in that respect.
Yeah. 100%. And it will only help you become a better writer. So every time you edit, just think, I'm making this so much better. I'm becoming a better writer. And it can be kind of an annoying process, obviously.
Very, yeah.
It's very annoying. And it can be disheartening sometimes. It can make you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not that good of a writer. And, maybe this is just a hot mess and I should just delete the whole thing. But that's why it's so helpful to have a writing buddy or having somebody who understands writing or understands your intent with this story or even just reads the genre.
I love how you've been gesturing towards me that entire time.
My writing buddy, in case you didn't know who mine was.
Yeah, well, I think you can totally counteract the annoyance of editing because, that's what I've been doing. Like, I'm currently editing a book. I'm also writing a book. And every day I'm like, I want to write enough. So hopefully that I have enough to read to Abby. Because the like dopamine hit and the encouragement and the feedback I get, like even the constructive criticism will make me motivated to like, oh yeah, I see what you mean there. And like, it will get me excited to write.
Yes.
And that will counteract the like feelings of editing.
Yeah.
Now, if I was just editing a book, and I've done this in the past where I'll be like, you know what, I have to edit and this has a deadline and I can't work on anything else other than this. And all I do all day is edit. It really has put me into mentally unhealthy states, emotionally unhealthy states, where it's just like this constant loop of being overly analytical and overly critical of your work, and there's really no light at the end of the tunnel. So I would say counteract that. Be working on a fun project at the same time, even if it's only for like a half hour in the morning or something before you edit your book or whatever. Try to counteract that with something else, something that is going to bring you joy.
Yes.
In your craft, because those things will balance each other nicely. If you just have all of one thing, just like all editing, then that tends to be something that can dampen your spirits.
Yeah.
So I have seen a few writers out there who love editing, and I've heard from probably maybe 2 people like that I've ever seen in my entire life that are like, I like editing better than writing, and I'm like, wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. But like I think, find bright places to counteract something that might be kind of a depressing experience or kind of an arduous experience to have to go through.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Which kind of leads into the third big mistake that beginner writers make, which is to have a lack of confidence in their own work. And I think that's something that you have way more of at the beginning of your writing journey is you don't have confidence. You have more self-doubt, less confidence and more self-doubt at the beginning of your writing journey. And you're like, oh, is this really good? I don't know. Is this anything? Could this ever be good? Could I ever be good? Could I ever be a decent writer. And that's like you were saying, about we read each other our books and we give each other feedback. And that's something that really helps to motivate me and encourage me. And feedback has always been really important to me and encouraging. And I think that's something that every writer should put themselves out there and get that feedback, because that is going to motivate you to keep going. And like I said, and I can't remember what episode this was, but we were talking about motivation in writing. I can't remember which one it was, but I was talking about how you have to just like keep writing.
I think it was the advice for teen writers.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Even if it feels like I'm not good at this and I'm not sure if I can even be a writer. Like if you just keep writing and you get feedback that inspires you to keep writing, then you will get better with time. Like it's inevitable. Mm-hmm. So I think I think that's pretty heartening. I've always felt that way about anything that I try, even when I'm new at it and I don't really know if I'm, going to be able to be good at it. I tell myself that, okay, first of all, everybody is a beginner in the beginning and nobody is an expert right away. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, whether it's learning an instrument or learning a new skill or writing or singing a song. I do this all the time with songs that I can't sing. I think I mentioned this before. Like if I find a song that I really like, but I can't sing it technically, I'll just like sing it over and over again badly until I can sing it well. And without even like, finding specific like techniques to use and stuff. Because it's really just a matter of getting to know yourself and your own capabilities, and then using those capabilities in a new way once you start growing and improving in that area. So the same goes for writing. I think that the more you write, the better you become, the more confidence you'll have in your work. And in the respect of taking feedback from other people, that was the fourth one that I had written down, which is the mistake of not taking constructive criticism or taking it the wrong way, which is, I think, a big thing for new writers, is that once you start getting constructive criticism, some of it might be like really nice words of affection and praise over your writing, but then some of it might be a little bit like, oh, that kind of hurts, or like, I didn't, think that it was like that, or I didn't think that this needed help. And then you start like taking it the wrong way and thinking that this person is being just judgmental of your work when really they're trying to help you.
Right.
So I think that the journey of receiving criticism is something that's a bit of a rocky road for beginner writers.
Yeah. I think most beginner writers have like that Joe March Professor Bear moment.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you're saying that I suck at writing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And you're so offended and the whole world is ending and you'll never write again. But really, there's a happy medium with constructive criticism. And first off, anyone who's like being hateful about your writing, don't listen to them, because like a negative review, 1 star, this book sucked. That is not the constructive criticism we're talking about, because it leaves out the constructive part. We're talking about people who are like, well, I liked it, but I feel like this wasn't working together. Don't be like, that's it, I'm not writing anymore. So look for people who want you to succeed, who believe in your writing journey, and then listen to them, because that qualifies them to be able to give you advice. Yeah. And take it with a grain of salt. You don't have to take it so seriously. That's like, oh, my book's going to be crap if I don't make it the way this person said to the T. But you also shouldn't chuck it out altogether. So there's a happy medium of being able to take advice and look at your work objectively and see if it works, see if it doesn't, maybe add pieces of it, maybe not. So there's like this happy middle ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. And I think we did a whole episode on reading reviews and like how to take constructive criticism and feedback and stuff like that. And I think another big tell is like, is the person publicly telling everybody this after you publish the book, in which case it's like you can't even do anything about it now, so it's not really that helpful. Whereas like a person privately messaging you or emailing you or responding to your request for their feedback before you publish the book is helpful, because they're actually trying to be helpful. Constructive and helpful. Exactly. And then the fifth mistake that beginner writers make is, that I've noticed anyway, copying other authors in attempts to write good. And this is something that I have seen a lot of young writers struggle with, is that you look up to certain authors, you read certain books that you really like, and you're like, oh, I really want to write as good as them. And the problem comes in when you start to like inadvertently copy their stuff, and I say inadvertently because you're not like copying and pasting, like your book is propped up, their book is propped up there and you're copying it. I mean, like copying their ideas or their way of writing or something in hopes that you can be good like them, in air quotes. And I think that the problem here is not even in the thing itself, but it's like this belief that this published author is such a good writer and I'm not. So I kind of have to like borrow ideas from them or borrow things that I've seen done before in order to make something good. You know, not like, oh, well, maybe my own unique idea is good.
Right.
I think a lot of young writers will have great ideas that they think aren't good because they haven't seen them done before a lot, or maybe not a lot in their genre. But that doesn't mean they're not good, and doesn't mean that they can't be amazing. It just means that you haven't seen them done a lot before, or maybe it's something that's just all your own, and that's okay. That's cool. It's unique,
right?
You know, I think that a lot of young writers especially can kind of hold other authors up on a pedestal of like, they have this great story and this great imagination and this great, you know, style of writing. I wish I could be like them, instead of like just imagining that there are no books in the world and it's just you and this piece of paper. What would you write? You know, if you didn't have to impress anybody, if you didn't have to live up to some expectation that you've set up in your mind, what would you write just from your own creativity and your own mind? And don't be afraid to try new, unique ideas that seem crazy and that seem all your own, and maybe you've never seen them done before, but you might be surprised by how well received they are and how awesome they turn out. So I think take risks. Take risks with your writing and believe in yourself.
Right. Like that's it throughout the history of art. That's been so much of what has shaped artwork, really. Yeah. Like, you know, imagine if Pablo Picasso had been like, oh, I have to try to paint like, you know, the old masters.
Right.
You know, well, then that style that was new and fresh and, you know, it was controversial at first because it was like, this is not what we're used to. But that's really what those are always the critics saying that. The consumer is like, ooh, something new and different. So if you're like, oh, my writing style isn't as like prosy and it's not very poetic and whatever, well, whatever. You know what I mean? Like your people are out there. That's something to remember, is that there are so many different types of writing styles, so many different types of stories, that you have your people. You will find them if you persist. And there will be an audience who will love your writing. Yeah,
100%. I think that's something that's this, I don't know, there's this idea perpetuated in schools and universities, I know, that's like, you know, you study these certain works and then you inadvertently like start to hold them up on like kind of idolize them of like, well, I have to write something as, you know, compelling as that. It's like, what if that just didn't exist? I mean, like, not like it didn't exist. It's their thing. Like, what if you just focused on your own thing, you know, and just working from your own creativity.
Exactly.
And not being afraid to take chances and try something new.
Step out on the limb.
Yeah, exactly. Mistake number 6 is when beginner writers force themselves to write even when they're sick of it. And by that, I mean like this, I have to write every day. I have to be committed. I have to be consistent. We don't write every day.
No.
That's a well-known fact.
Yeah. I actually made a video like years ago that was called like Why I Don't Write Every Day. I don't even remember what I say in it. Hopefully it's good.
It was good from what I remember. I don't remember specifically what you said, but I remember it being good.
I was basically covering the fact that I don't write every day because I don't feel like writing every day.
Yeah, and if you did write every day, you would get sick of it and be like, I feel like I'm forcing myself to do this thing and it wouldn't be fun anymore.
Right.
You know? And so your creativity would be dried up.
Exactly. And part of what, if any of you guys have like watched some of my videos about like mindfulness and such, mindfulness and applying it to your author career, is that every other part of your life, every other area of your life affects your creativity. And so if you treat yourself just like this writing machine and like, I have to crank out words, then you're kind of neglecting your own spiritual, emotional health and happiness. And it's out of that happiness and stability that creativity actually flows. So it's important to be looking after yourself in other areas, such as taking rest days, taking time to fill the cup, not always just pouring out of the cup all the time, because eventually it's going to be empty.
Right. Exactly. You need to fill your cup in order to pour out of the cup. You need to take in inspiration and take breaks, like you said. And I find that when I take that time and just like chill and relax and stay inspired and do things that inspire my creativity, I want to write more than when I'm like forcing myself, like, okay, this day is the only day I have to write this week and I'm gonna write. And then you like end up on that day and you're like, I don't feel inspired to write, because you're like kind of forcing yourself to do it.
Right.
Whereas if you just, chilled a little bit, it would come more natural to you.
Right.
So I think that that's something, and a lot of beginner writers start by doing writing challenges like NaNoWriMo and stuff, where you're writing consistently every day. And that can be healthy, but it can also be unhealthy. So it's important to just pay attention to that and be like, am I pushing myself beyond what I want, beyond what I feel creatively compelled to do? And once you feel like you're like pushing yourself beyond your creative, like your natural creativity, it kind of starts to make your writing suffer. Your writing suffers as a result. So I think that it's important to focus more on, how do you feel? Do you feel creative today? Do you want to write today? And the seventh and probably worst mistake that beginner writers make is giving up. Don't give up. Don't give up for anything. If you feel like you are compelled to be a writer and you have this story inside of you that you need to write, don't give up on that. It matters to you. It matters to the world. So find out why it matters to you, find out why it matters to the world, and then why it matters to your characters, of course, and keep going. Check out our podcast on staying, what was it called? How to Believe in Yourself as a Writer.
How to Believe in Yourself as a Writer.
Because that will, anytime you feel like giving up, just go listen to that podcast.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Keep you on the path.
I think it's still our most popular episode of this podcast.
Which says a lot.
It does.
So don't give up. That would be the biggest mistake that you could make.
And the thing is if you don't feel motivated and you feel like meh, just take a break. Go do something else. Don't like make a snap decision about it right now. You know what I mean? It's like, don't make a decision about it right now. Just go do something else. Rest, watch a movie, drink some tea, do other things. Maybe even let it sit for a while. Maybe you need to think about it. Maybe you need to plot if you like plotting, or, if you want to follow a story structure, or if, you're a pantser and you don't do that, then whatever, maybe you need to take a break. Maybe you need to step back from it and have an epiphany about something. You know what I mean? So don't make any snap decisions. Just like leave it alone for a little while.
Yeah. I agree. That's great advice. And that has helped me so much.
Because like there's a difference between taking a break and quitting.
Oh yeah.
So like take a break. Take a break. Don't give up on the whole thing.
Yeah. Rediscover your inspiration and your motivation to create this story. And that's really helped me, I know, in my journey. And I think every writer at some point feels like, I hate this. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
So you're not alone. Every writer's felt like that at some point. It's
right. And
natural.
Yeah, I think that, in this age of like the internet and social media, sometimes you can like look at other authors and it looks all just like, this book they just effortlessly wrote in like 2 months and they didn't need to edit it. And the biggest publishing house on earth just bumped into them on Instagram and was like, hey, can we publish everything you've ever written and fund trips for you to go to Europe and around the world to speak at big conferences and, all this stuff. And that's all they do. Here they are at TED. Here they are on the Bahamas. Here they are signing books on a tropical island,
Yeah.
That's just the pieces that go online.
The highlight reel.
That's the highlight reel. So for a lot of people, even the most successful authors out there had to deal with going through all kinds of really uncomfortable experiences, like being rejected or having to edit their work over and over again, or having like 5 books flop and then one finally takes off. So it's never this like peaches and cream image, of like nothing was hard and this all just fell into my lap. That's like almost non-existent.
Yeah, exactly. It takes discipline. It takes effort.
Grit.
It takes hard work and grit, but it is so worth it. And I think we would both recommend it to any writer out there.
Yeah.
Stay on the path, stay motivated, stay inspired, keep writing, and always remember why it matters. If you like this episode, share it with a friend, and on social media, if you're into that sort of thing. If you haven't seen the video, go over to Kate's YouTube channel and follow her, by the way. Awesome channel full of amazing videos, youtube.com/KAEmmons. And you can also check out my YouTube channel. I post writing videos every Wednesday, as a lot of you probably know, which is youtube.com/AbbieEmmons. And if you want this show to stay on YouTube and stay alive, then go to patreon.com/The Kate and Abbie Show, because our amazing patrons are what makes that happen. You guys are amazing, and we love you so much, and we couldn't do this without you. Nope. So comment below if you're on the video and tell us what are some big mistakes you made as a beginning writer. Add to the list, and we will see you in the next one.
Until then, stay stoked
and rock on.